Okay, I'm going to try to summarize this up. And I'm going to use an everyday example to kind of talk about what's going on over at the Forestry Commission. Imagine that you as a family man, that you're involved in sales, and your family is used to a certain lifestyle. Well, the economy goes down, your sales commissions goes down, and instead of cutting back on things and maybe getting your wife or your kids to worry about what's going on with your job, you borrow a little bit from a credit card to keep things on an even keel. Well, because you believe that, you know, like President Obama said with the big stimulus, the economy is going to get better in a year or two. Well, unfortunately, the economy doesn't get better. You keep borrowing a little bit from that credit card each month, and as you get closer and closer to that limit, of course, you start sweating a little bit, and you think, well, maybe I need to tell my wife we might need to cut back a little bit. Maybe not explain why, but tell her we need to start cutting back. Well, eventually you get to the point where you've reached the limit on that credit card, and now all of a sudden, you've got to go to your wife and say, not only are we making a lot less than we used to, we have $10,000 in credit card debt. And in a lot of ways, that analogy is what happened over at the Forestry Commission. The Forestry Commission receives its money from severance tax on timber in the state. And because of the housing market situation, housing starts have been down, the sales of timber have been down, so therefore the income, the revenue into the Forestry Commission has been greatly reduced. Well, the Forestry Commission was under the assumption, after talking to economists, that the economy was going to get better. And what the chief financial officer decided to do was, instead of laying off a bunch of members of the Forestry Commission, forest rangers, and the Forestry Commission, if you're not familiar with it, let me talk about what they do. The Forestry Commission is responsible, obviously, for our forests. They protect us against forest fires. They also prescribe burns. They're rangers. They, you know, if there's certain pests, blights on trees, they handle all of that stuff. They also work with our rural fire departments here, not only in Faulkner County, but the counties statewide. So that's what the Forestry Department does. And back about 10 years ago, they had 300 members on their staff. After these layoffs, they're going to be down to 264. So this department, this area of government has actually been shrinking. Problem is where a lot of states around us had been laying off employees, the chief financial officer decided that what he would do is, instead of laying off Arkansans, since the thought was things were going to get better, is that he would borrow some money from a federal grant. They had received a federal grant, and that grant was dedicated towards, oh, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but it was towards elimination of a pest or something with trees. And he thought he could borrow from that to get him through until things got better. Well, as you know, the economy didn't get better. And at a certain point, not only did the grant not have any money left, because the grant wasn't being used for what it was being used, they didn't have any money to meet their payroll now because they were using this grant and they couldn't do it anymore. So not only do we owe the federal government $1.2 million to pay back this grant, and there may be penalties associated with that. The U.S. Forestry Department is actually going to come in and conduct an investigation, so that may actually add to our credit card bill, if you will. At the same time, since the Forestry Department was not making the money they needed to make to maintain current level, they've got a shortfall to get through the rest of the year. And that shortfall is approximately $1.5 million. And if any of you want to see all this in detail, I have pages and pages and pages worth of documents and budgets from the Forestry Commission. So, getting into the controversy, the chief financial officer, was there any criminal intent there? No, I do not believe so. Talking with Director Shannon, I believe that the CFO had every good intention in the world. He was trying to save jobs. Was that the best decision made? No, definitely not. Now, had the economy improved, they would have paid that money back, and nobody ever would have known it. They would have been any the wiser. But it didn't happen that way, and the chief financial officer, he has resigned his position, and you know, talking with Director Shannon had nothing but praise for the guy. Like I said, He was doing what he felt was in the best interest, no criminal intent there. However, because of his actions, the director knew about it. The question then becomes, is when did Governor Beebe know about it? I have seen emails that indicated that the director did go speak with Governor Beebe back in June. Now, in Governor Beebe's defense, just in the agriculture department alone, and this is where we get into the, the nitty-gritty of running a government, and just in the agriculture area alone, we've got the Forestry Commission, we've got the Wildlife Commission, Fish and Game. We have a commission for rice, we've got a commission for corn, we've got a commission for soybeans, we've got a commission for beef, we've got a commission for hogs, we've got a commission for everything under the sun. Is it possible for one human, for Governor Beebe, to know what's going on in every one of those commissions? No. There's no way that any one person is going to know. And that's just the Agriculture Commission. There's every other branch of government has their own different commissions and boards and whatnot. So it's not possible for the governor to know. But what the governor does have control is the governor has control of the man that's managing that department. The governor also has control of Department of Finance and Administration, who moved the money from one pot to the other pot. So, where do we go from here? Well, we're going to wait and see if this, this investigation plays out. Should Director Shannon quit? Should he resign? Me personally, I have mixed feelings in this area. That is the executive branch. And I try to stay in the legislative branch and not cross over. I try to honor the separation of powers. Some of my other colleagues, they're ready to have Director Shannon resign. And in the end, was he responsible? Yes. Does he take responsibility for it? Yes, he does. Should he resign? That's a question that I'll let other folks and y'all decide.